Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Schaefer. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Student Success and Professional Development with the Graduate School. If you're not sure where the voice is coming from, I'm the one in the very bright shirt. At least on my screen, I am to the right. I am excited to be hosting the second session in our fall 2024 Career Pathways guest series, which is our Career Trajectories panel. And I'm thrilled to welcome my two guests here that are with me to speak to you about career opportunities outside of academia in the sciences. So first we have, first we have Dr. Sarah Perdue. Sarah Perdue earned a bachelor's degree in biochemistry from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a doctorate in microbiology from Cornell University. She has been interested in science writing as a career before starting grad school, and that interest really took off when she enrolled in a popular science communications course for STEM students and postdocs at Cornell. The summer before graduating, she was accepted into the AAS Mass Media Science and Engineering Fellowship, through which she spent the summer as a science journalist intern at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Upon graduating, Sarah first took a one-year visiting professor appointment at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, and then a second one-year visiting appointment at Providence College. She completed 18 months of a postdoc at the University of Minnesota before deciding to pursue a career in science writing full-time. In 2015, she joined the University of Wisconsin, Carbone's Cancer Center as a communications specialist, and joined the University of Wisconsin Physics Department as a communications manager in 2019, where she currently works. She thinks the best part of her job are that she is still learning new things every day, and she has a pretty decent work-life balance. Very important. I think we all struggle with that, no matter what background you have. Next, and Jacob, I'm going to try not to butcher your last name, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway.
Do it.
With Dr. Sarah Perdue is Dr. Jacob Przyojski.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay. Jacob studied inorganic chemistry at UTSA for his BS and PhD, performing research under Dr. Judith Walmsley and Dr. Zachary Tonzicich. I know Dr. Tonzicich, and I should have done better with his last name. After graduation, Jacob continued research in organometallic chemistry as a postdoctoral research associate at MIT with Dr. Richard Schrook before transitioning to an industry career path as product development engineer with Tessa Tape Incorporated. At Tessa, Jacob grew in both the technical and management track, transitioning from an individual contributor role to a development platform leader, and later to a senior technology project manager as an expat in Germany. Jacob then transitioned back to more technically focused role as a scientist in catalyst development at the Dow Chemical company, followed by an internal move into a more outward-facing role as a subject matter expert and product technology leader for a Dow-owned company, Univation Technologies. Hey, I know I have stock questions, but based on both of your bios, I could ask so many other questions, honestly. But please, I'd like to welcome Dr. Perdue and Dr. Przyojski to the Career Trajectories panel for our College of Science graduate students and postdocs at UTSA. So welcome both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And as we were discussing a little bit ago, Jacob's in Houston, where it is hot and humid and there's a lot of bugs, much like honestly right here in San Antonio right now. And Dr. Perdue is lucky to be up at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where it is a crisp, did you say 65 degrees?
It's not 65 and sunny and perfect right now.
I would give my left arm for that right now. In fact, my sister and her family live in close to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I will be visiting there for my sister's birthday and Halloween. so I can take my little nephew trick-or-treating. So I'm very looking forward to cooler weather and not sweating weather. Sweater, not sweating. Yes, exactly. So let's go ahead and get started. And I am going to open these questions up to both of you, or this one up to both of you. So this is going to be more of a general question. And we'll start with what has been your or excuse me, how did you get your job where you are currently, which a little bit of that was described in your bio. How did you get your job currently, and what experiences led you into or to this position? And we'll start with Sarah.
All right. So yeah, my current job is the communications manager for the Department of Physics. And if you heard from my bio, I have zero physics training. So this is like a very different field for me. But I think sort of how I landed this job was I had been at the Cancer Center doing sort of more research communications for 4 years. I saw this position open up at physics, and it was a new position, and I thought it might be fun to sort of start a communications program with a department that didn't have one. And so I specifically remember at my interview telling them, like, I can write about science, I can ask questions about science, but if you need me to know anything about physics, this is not going to work out. And they took a chance on me because I think, I've despite my background being largely in the biological sciences, I do sort of have clips, and I've written for all types of different science disciplines. And so, it's really just knowing how to ask questions and not being afraid to say what you don't when you don't know something, because I don't know a lot about physics. And so I think, yeah, it was sort of like that collection of all of my previous experiences with this new position opening up, and they wanting somebody who could write but also understood the communications landscape at our university. And so yeah, they hired me, and I'm still here.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jacob, same question.
Yeah, so I think focusing on my very current now position, it's really about a mixture of things. So of course, having a technical background is necessary when you're in something such as what can be considered a technical sales support function, almost in a lot of ways. But really, what set me up as a prime candidate for the position was my external experiences and let's say collaboration across cultures. So having worked in Germany and very multinational as soon as you get into Europe, because everything's so packed together. I was at Dow in a very technical role developing Catalyst, and then there was this opening, let's say even a need for somebody who could both speak well with the customer and communicate things effectively, and also understand the science to a very high degree. So previously in this department, there was a hard split between subject matter experts and project technology leaders, the PTL being the customer facing part, SME being the science part. So yeah, these customers are all over the world, and it just made sense that somebody with experience communicating with people from various cultures and different languages, and also having the technical background, would be a strong fit for this role. And so that's kind of how I wiggled into this kind of niche position.
Perfect, thank you. What would you say the job market is like for both of your careers? And well, let's start there. What do you feel the job market is like for your careers? And we'll start with Jacob.
Yeah. So broadening out a little bit to let's say the technical services and application engineering area, I think this is a huge field with a lot of opportunity. And it's also a field that people don't necessarily realize they can look into. So it was not something that was at all on my radar coming out of graduate school or out of my postdoc or anything like this. I really found my way into it later in the job hunt. And it is always growing. It's somewhat similar to a service industry in some ways, where even as certain manufacturing moves to other places, we actually hold on to this because a lot of the technology is developed here in the States, and this goes out, and you get to be a part of that end of it, similar to consulting in a lot of cases. And I think this is a field with a lot of potential. It's something that allows you to bridge into other career paths as well, and there's a lot of ways into it. So I think it's a very open and very accessible field for your graduate students.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Yeah, I think for my field, so I kind of want to split it up into two, maybe three types. So there's the science journalism side where you're working for a news outlet, a newspaper, a magazine, something like that. I'm on we call it the public information officer side. So I work for an institution. I really do glorified science PR, which has a bad rap, I think, but it's, I feel like I'm representing scientists in the work they do. So it's not, it's PR, but it doesn't, it's not, it has no negative connotations as far as I'm concerned. I would say the journalism side, that's where you have a lot more like investigative work, where you can really sort of directly apply even kind of some of your science training, and doing investigative work, or kind of just covering studies as well that a lot of journalists do. Journalism, I think, as we all know, is perhaps not the greatest field in terms of growth. I think it's on a slight upswing from what it was, 10, 15 years ago. Not a huge career market, not one I would say has a ton of potential. But on the PIO side that I'm on, it's been really great, at least at Wisconsin, to see how many departments and colleges and units and whatever are really valuing communications and research communications and getting their department's research out there in a more accessible way. So I feel like at Wisconsin, we're really lucky that we have so many people who have a communications job in a science department. I don't know if other schools are picking up that track so much. I hope they are, because I think it's a wonderful use of a scientist training. There's plenty of people who come through the journalism side too and get more into science writing. So there's that option as well. And then the third track, so I feel like that's a slightly higher upside in terms of career growth. The biological sciences field is slightly, I wouldn't say saturated, but definitely more saturated than say the physical sciences research communication field. The third track I was going to kind of mention is like freelancing, where you can be a freelance journalist or a freelance kind of PR person, where you do, like maybe you freelance for a science society, or you freelance for, in like a granting institution or something. So that's sort of like the third side. And I don't know much about freelancing other than to say that it is an option with, where you sort of manage you're your own boss. So there's pluses and minuses to that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. And as far as technical skills, when you're looking at the technical skills of each of your jobs, I mean, obviously with Sarah's communication and like PR type of pieces, the written word is very important. What specific technical skills do you recommend students develop if they're interested in securing a job or career in your respective areas? And we'll start with Sarah.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. Like, being a strong writer, being like telling good narratives is maybe not a technical skill, but definitely a skill I have to use every day. Another kind of technical skill, maybe not technical, yeah, whatever, we'll say, I have had to learn a lot of graphic design and web development. Not coding, I don't do any HTML coding, but just thinking about web design and building our website. So there's like, kind of some technical skills, but I also just want to give a plug for, and I think maybe you're going to ask this question, I can't remember, but like, I have to use my science training every time I write, because like I'm writing about science. And so it's not a technical skill, but reading technical literature, being able to digest technical concepts and graphs and figures and know how to ask the questions that I need to ask to get the story across is, again, not a technical skill, but makes use of my training in technical. So, really just like scientific reasoning is hugely important.
Perfect. And Jacob.
Yeah, so I actually, want to put an emphasis in this. I think this goes into one of your later questions too about what I wish I'd known in school, maybe. But I think that your fundamentals that you learn end up being so much more important than you expect, because as a graduate student, you become hyper focused on this topic, and you truly become an expert in these things. Now, when you move industries, the technical skills that I find really helped me shine out were things that were more observing relationships, technical relationships, within with, let's say, machinery. So the ability to see something and really follow the scientific process and understand, like, hey, what are the knobs I can turn, and what is the effect of these, and what is the target? So it's really the ability to break down a complex topic into something that is digestible and actionable. And so I think, yeah, you really fall back on just the basics of the scientific process, and on the ability to communicate these topics. So I know a lot of students, they go and they give presentations on their work, and it's often to an audience that isn't in their expertise. And that practice is really directly what you need. It's speaking about what you're doing to somebody in a language that they can understand it, and also understand what the value is. And I think that is a big thing in industry, is being able to convey the value of something in a way that somebody that's not an expert can understand it.
Yeah, I love that, only because, Jacob, you just described our 3MT, or the 3MT competition. I don't know if you're familiar with it, or Sarah is. 3MT, we're in year 10 of doing it, hosting it, and it's where master's or doctoral students have to present their research to a panel of judges and an audience in 3 minutes or less, with one static PowerPoint slide.
Okay.
So, but
Perfect.
it's making your research accessible to a larger audience. What I always tell, because we also do a boot camp training, which is required for any students participating, and I always tell them my background is in public relations and higher ed administration. So if you are any STEM or ology person, psychology, any of the ologies, anthropology, you need to make your research accessible to me. I need to understand it. If I don't understand it, there is the possibility you will not win this competition.
Yeah.
Because that is part of what they're graded on.
This is also critical in the interview process. When you have to, go to interview and explain what you've done, something that's very impressive to you in your field may not communicate very well to somebody who's not so familiar. And so being able to provide this information in a way that, really sends the message you're trying to deliver is huge.
Yeah, and I just want to say everything Jacob said is so directly applicable to what I do. I'm kind of like the middleman for the researchers who aren't able to do that, or in most cases don't have the time to do it. But I think having, it's so critical in every aspect of, to receive funding, to get a job, to, you have to be able to explain what you're doing in pretty simple terms. And I love 3-minute thesis, and that's great that you do a boot camp. And I encourage people to participate. And I also encourage them to, practice their talk in front of lots of different people.
Agreed, very, very much so. And based on I think a comment Jacob made earlier about a future question, that we'll just use that as a segue, and I'll take it to that question, which is, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were in school? And we'll talk from a career perspective. Obviously, there's numerous ways to answer that question just in life, but from a career perspective, what do you wish you knew then when you were a graduate student, that you wish or that you know now? And we'll start with Jacob.
Yeah, so I definitely wish that I would have realized the importance of putting more emphasis on peripheral knowledge around, other items. So especially when you're let's say you get past second year, you're working on your real dissertation now, like it's easy to just hyper focus on your topics and to kind of fade out of other areas. And so I wish that I would have spent more time practicing the fundamentals, because anything that you don't practice, you lose to some extent. And then, come down the road later, you're going back and relearning some things. So I definitely wish I'd have known, that. And I also wish I would have had an appreciation, leading into the job hunt for how translatable my skills were and which of my skills were so translatable, so that I would have opened my job search up sooner. Let's say before doing the postdoc, I feel like I would look through these job advertisements and be so discouraged by so many of them because they weren't organometallic chemistry and synthesis. And that was totally okay. Yeah, I just didn't realize it at the time.
Do you feel, before I move over to Sarah, do either of you feel that when you were a student, that you were, I mean, it's kind of similar to maybe something you were saying, that you were kind of locked into what your degree was originally in, and you weren't thinking, okay, let's think outside the box as to what my transferable skills what career they could work into. Because I think a lot of students, they get maybe a little bit of tunnel vision, and that may be due to lack of career knowledge, career opportunity knowledge. It could be the focus of their mentor, their faculty mentor, their chair, that maybe because I know that there's a lot of faculty that they want their students to go into academia. That's the goal. But do you think did you each have that thought maybe when you were in school, that, well, because I'm in school for this is what I have to do or will be doing?
Yeah, I mean, two quick points on that, because like you said, with the people we're surrounded with in academics are people that stayed in academia, so professors. So Zach is the greatest guy on the planet. He was such an amazing mentor and everything. But there's going to be inherently things, since he came straight from one academic institution to another, that he's not going to be able to help with just because he didn't experience it. And so I think something like these panels are really good, because you don't naturally have access to this kind of information when you're in the department. And just as, again, a lack of experience, and speaking of myself at the time, yeah, I definitely felt, let's say, pigeonholed into my career. And something I would emphasize is one of the things that made my step into leadership possible actually was an engineering thing that had nothing to do with my degree, but was something that, let's say, reflected back on my personal interests. So as much time as you spend studying your degree field, don't discount how much time you spend investing in your own personal interest, because those things are very valuable too. And you've easily invested as much time in your interest as you had your degree, and those can really play out in your career pathway as incredible strengths that complement your formal education.
Perfect. I very much agree with that. And Sarah, did you find something similar when you were in school, that you were kind of maybe tunnel vision focused on, due to whatever factors, on what you were getting your degree in?
I think I was lucky and had just enough foresight, just enough, that I sort of knew from the start that I did not want to be a professor at a large institution, like an R1 institution. That was never my goal. I did have people tell me not to say that to my advisor, and I told him, and then he was okay with it. Like, people were like, "You don't tell your advisor that," and I did. So kind of from the start, like even from my first year, I was really seeking out opportunities. And this is, I was gonna say, this is the advice I give every grad student who asks me how I got into my job. Because like, let me back up a little bit. What I often do is have people who are graduating who come to me and they're like, "I'm graduating, I need a job, I don't think I want to do a postdoc. How do I get your job?" And I'm like, I started working towards my job like early on in grad school. And that's really hard to tell somebody who's graduating, but I think, yeah, I was lucky that I didn't have that tunnel vision. I still, obviously, my primary focus had to be my research and getting my dissertation done and being successful in that. But I, like my first year, I joined this outreach program where I developed an course, like an 8-class session that I took into high school classes. I took the science communication course that our science and technology studies department offered. I did the AAAS mass media fellowship, so I was a real life science journalist for a summer. To me, grad school is the time to, you have to find those outside passions, and you have to find those things that are going to keep you working towards the, the prize at the end, that keep you happy and help you get there and give you a little break, and set you up for this type of career that you might want. And the reason I tell people, like, start early for many reasons. But when you finish grad school, everybody is going to have a dissertation, a degree, probably some TA experience, and some research skills, and some publications. Every single person has that. So what is going to set you apart? And if you're waiting until, and grad school is the time, I think, when you have kind of the most freedom to do that, and you just hopefully have a supportive advisor. And if you don't, talk to somebody who can help you, like, work on getting that support from your advisor.
I think it's a nice opposing thing here that we had such opposite experiences. It really helps give both sides of the story to the panel.
Yeah.
Here.
And this is honestly why it's not to speak out of turn. I love our professional development, like the actual like skill sessions. And a lot of our sessions are like the soft skills. I love those. I'm able to provide a couple of them, but I love the Career Pathways series because I get to talk about two real people about real experiences. And it is oftentimes, more often than not, there's one nugget of information that will resonate with the students that they didn't even think before. And that happens in the alumni career story, in the career trajectories and in the national perspectives, to be honest. So that's again one of the reasons. And then I get to meet new people, which is also wonderful. So we'll do maybe slightly. If you want to get touchy-feely about this answer, you can feel free to get the warm fuzzies. What is the most rewarding or enjoyable part of your job/career? And we'll start with Jacob.
Yeah, so so far it's been the experience of working with people all over the world. So like I said, I lived in Europe. I've traveled to Central America, Asia, all over Europe, Canada, these places for work, and it's been an absolute pleasure getting to have that experience. So if there's a job that you find that affords that opportunity, 100%. In general, one of my favorite things ever has been the leadership portion of my career, because developing people is incredibly rewarding. So anytime you have a report that you can promote and grow into a new role, this is just phenomenal. And I want to go back one more time because to the graduate school program, I think the place that I really learned this, and one of the reasons I had a lot of success in that role, was reflecting back on my experience in graduate school with my advisor. Zach was the perfect role model for how to, work with reports, how to develop people, how to encourage them and keep them engaged. So I think that even though at the time I considered him so formative as a scientist, I look back at the way that he treated our group and the way he developed us, and that is 100% the influence for my leadership style. And I think, a lot of success came from that. So I always have a lot of warm feelings whenever I talk about my favorite part of the career, because I reflect not only on how it felt to help people, but also how it felt to be helped by my advisor in school. So so most rewarding part, leadership, the travel and interaction, and my favorite tasks are always the ones where I get to work with somebody and basically just bring anything to fruition, to success. So it could be as simple as a payment that's, somebody's having trouble get through to a vendor. You're still helping someone out and helping the business move forward.
I love the answer only because it's your story, although you're in the sciences and I'm not, or even close. but your experience with your faculty mentor, with your advisor, is very similar to the person that provided me my first job when I was 22 years old. And it set me on due to him believing in me and mentoring me and showing me leadership skills and epitomizing that all the way back in 1991. It set me on a path, and unknowing at the time, it set me on a path for my career and what I do now, which is program development, subject matter, expert in leadership, public speaking. All of that started with him, and then I had the opportunity, and I'm not getting too off topic because I want to get to Sarah. I had the opportunity for a full circle moment next semester, because of his experience in leadership in nonprofits over the past 30 years. Okay, that'll tell you how about do the math and you might be able to figure out how old I am. For the past 30 years, he's going to be my guest speaker for our College for Health, Community and Policy National Perspectives next semester. So full circle moment for me, 30 years, I guess, in the making. But so I do understand the importance of the mentorship and why that relationship with Clark and I is pivotal and very meaningful and important to me. And Sarah, let's go over to you. What is the most rewarding part of your job or career?
Yeah, I put it at the end of my bio because I feel like it's important to point out two things that I like when people ask me what I like about it, or what I think is rewarding is one, I am learning something every day, and that's really the grad student in me, the scientist in me is not at the bench anymore, but still, I can't get bored. I just could not go to a job where I could not do a job where I'm bored every day. And so it's great. Like I'm in this job where, yeah, I have to read physics papers. I have to talk to people about their work right now. I have to ask them questions. I have to understand what they're doing, and I have to get it across in a way. I have to learn what they're doing. I have to understand it, and then I have to be able to explain it to somebody else. So I am learning every day I go to work. I pick up something new. I also have a lot of flexibility in my job in terms of just like projects I get to take on. So it's a lot of just like creativity for me. The other thing I tell people too is if I'm working with you, I'm working with you because you had a success. You got an award, you got a big grant, you had a publication come out. So I also don't have any of the lows of science where you're like, oh, my experiment didn't work again. I talk to people when they've had successes. So that's also kind of, I guess it's a little unfair because I don't have to like see the downside of science anymore. Or like the not the downside, the struggle to get something successful. Yeah. And then I think the other thing I like, although right now is not the right time to say this to me because I'm in the very busy time of my year. I have to put a whole newsletter together and some other stuff. But the other thing I do like is I do really have good work-life balance. And so part of the reason I'm so busy is because I also have taken on too many volunteer opportunities, but that's also something that like I just in grad school and when I was a bench scientist, I just didn't have time for. And so yes, I'm spreading myself too thin, but it's with stuff outside of work. So I have a really good opportunity to sort of put myself into like, find these passions of mine, do extracurriculars outside my job that make me me and make me happy. And so, my life is not just about work. Paycheck is nice. Obviously, I like doing what I do, and I would like to keep doing jobs that make me happy, but also pay me. But then having this opportunity to do stuff outside of work has been really great. I tell everybody we get a decent amount of vacation as University of Wisconsin employees, and I am really good at taking it. And I think when I was in grad school, that was something that just didn't feel like something I should be doing. Or when I was a visiting professor, there was, I was every day, it was like, what class am I teaching tomorrow? I just have to stay up until I get this done. I take all my vacation time and I love it.
I think it's very important to maintain a work-life balance. I try very hard to make sure that there is a definite boundary, like that I set that boundary. Because I don't want to burn out. I do also love what I do. I've always been one that enjoyed knowing that I am making some type of impact or difference. And I know you can do that in any field, but I like the tangible piece of that. And I love that. And I love my job, but I also love my life. I love the time that is allowed to me. And I also say I love taking vacations, and I take full advantage of state benefits, working benefit. I'm gonna ask one more question because I did want to open it up if anybody else has any questions. So what would either of you feel an academic or extracurricular experience, one that is primarily important in seeking out to enter your field, the fields that you're in currently? So what academic or extracurricular experiences should students be looking for to enter either of your positions? And we'll start with Sarah.
Yeah, so I like to give the disclaimer that my experience is not the only way to get into my career. There is actually, I'll give a plug for this resource called the Open Notebook, which is like a nonprofit science writing sort of, they have a lot of like internships and resources that are all free it's great for students who are looking to get into the field. They have an entire section on just people telling their story of how they got into our field. So again, it's the Open Notebook. I highly recommend it. And you can go read like, I don't know, 30 some, I don't know, several dozen stories of how people got into the field. For me, like it's the academic and extracurricular stuff that I did that I would recommend is, I was lucky that we had in my grad school, we had a department called Science and Technology Studies, which is basically like a science communication. It's like the study of science communication. UW also has one called Life Sciences Communications. I encourage everybody to take those classes. I don't know, I did not look up what UTSA's course offerings were, but if there's anything in sort of popular science communication, it's a really great way to get started, especially if you have the room in your schedule and the allowed credits to take such a class. And then in terms of extracurricular stuff, the thing I really recommend to people is if you have a news organization, like if you have a university communications, or if your department or your college or whatever has a like a communications team, just talk to them. They don't have to have the same background as you, but they're doing this, like a lot of them are doing what I do, which is writing about an award somebody got, writing about a new study that just came out. Talk to them, see what their job is about, and ask if you can write something for them and get some feedback. And it's really, it's your school, so they should be supportive of you. And I think then you have the clips, you have the, you can link back when you're applying to something, you can link back and be like, yeah, I wrote this. I mean, that's really how I got started, was doing this kind of just stuff, going through the class, doing an internship with our news service. And that just sort of kept going from there. So yeah, take advantage of your school, who should be supportive of you right now.
And Jacob?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of abstract for moving into something that's very business related. So one of the things I would suggest is to consider some of the, let's say, softer tangential skills that you'll need. So if you want to look at communication and in this type of reaching out, maybe there's something you can get involved in with like graduate school recruiting, where you're going places, you're meeting different people, and really you're selling them on your university. So this is a really good example where in an interview you can showcase your ability to communicate with different people and to communicate the value of something that you're a part of or promoting. Additionally, I would suggest anything that has to do with leadership. So maybe even just within your group, there's kind of like a lab leader who's responsible for organizing certain things or maintaining, the order of whatever it may be. Or maybe moving into something more official, like for chemistry, there's the American Chemical Society, will always have local chapters. here there's things like treasurer, there's things, kind of say marketing almost. Maybe you write for them and put out their local publication. But anywhere you can get involved where you implement a skill that is necessary in the business, and I emphasize communication, project and people leadership, and those are the three major things: project management, people leadership, and communication. Huge across the board. You may also find an opportunity to play with something like budgeting, and this is again any unique skill you can show you have to set yourself apart from all the people that came out of the same program requirements as you.
And you just gave a shameless plug for our professional development workshop series that also comes with it, or you can also receive micro-credentialing badges in certain trainings. So, and we do leadership, we do communication, we do mentoring, all kind of time management, all those type of soft skills.
So then I'm going to bounce right back that quickly. Sure. With A, I did not know you had those things, so I'm not plugging them on purpose. And B, I know a lot of these things existed at UTSA, even when I was there, and I did not take advantage of them. And if I could go back in time, I 1000% would have taken more advantage of so many things that were offered. And I think that goes back to hyper-focusing on the work. So yeah, please be mindful of the opportunities to expand your scope.
And once again, thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. And now, Jacob, when did you graduate again from UTSA?
16.
Okay, so things have changed a lot within the graduate school. Like okay. we now provide like full, like we feed the students. If you attend, we feed you, and we feed you well. And we are now known as the department that has the best UTSA swag on campus, like high-end stuff. So if you ever find yourself back in the San Antonio area and you want to swing by and pick up some graduate school, really nice premier swag, just let me know, and then we'll take care of that.
I'm there frequently, so I got family in San Antonio.
See, there you go. Just shoot me an email, say, hey John, I'm gonna be in San Antonio. When can I stop by and go ahead and do some shopping in the graduate school? Well, I'd like to thank you both so much for being here. This has been a very enjoyable and value-added session, and I have learned a lot. And now I will stop the recording and open it up to questions from the students.